this lesson we're going to look at equivalent fractions. Equivalent just means equal or the same. So for instance, we look at a circle, we've got half of the circle, so 1/2. If we break that circle into quarters, we can see that there is 1/4, 2/4, so 1/2 is the same as 2/4, meaning 1/2 and 2/4 are equivalent. In these 4 questions we have to colour in the fraction that is stated. So in the first one we have to colour in 1/6, which is pretty easy because the shape is already broken into 6 squares. Simply colour in one of them. The second question, again, pretty easy because it's broken into 10 squares. We then colour in 7 of them. The bottom 2 are a little bit trickier though. First one we have to colour in 2/3 of the shape. So the first thing we've got to do is break it up into thirds, like so. Then we've got to colour in 2 of those thirds. 1, 2. And in the last shape we have to break it into fifths. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And then we have to colour in 4 of those fifths. Returning to my third question, I can then see that 2/3 are the same as, we had originally 6 squares and there are 4 of them coloured in. And in my last question we have 4/5, which are equivalent to, well, the rectangle originally had 10 squares and there are now 8 of those coloured in. In the 2 rectangles shown we have to colour in the fraction that is stated. So in the first question we have to colour in 3/5. Now I need my shape to be divided into 5 pieces for fifths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 3 of those are coloured in. 1, 2 and 3. Using the diagram then we can work out the 3/5 are equivalent to, well, we had 10 squares originally, and as we can see there are 6 of them coloured in, so 6/10. My second question, I have to colour in 2/6, but I need there to be 6 parts of my shape. At the minute there are 18 squares, so we're going to break it up into 6 separate areas. There's our 6 sections, and we know now that 2 of those need to be coloured in. 1, 2. Then we can work out that 2/6 is equivalent to, well, we had 18 squares originally, and now we can see that 6 of them are coloured in. So 2/6 and 6/18 are equivalent. This question is more challenging. We have to colour 2/6 of a rectangle green, 1/12 of it blue, 2/8 of it red. Then we have to work out what fraction is left over in white. So our rectangle has 1, 2, 3, 4, multiplied by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our rectangle has 24 squares. 2/6 of them have to be green. So I need to work out 2/6 of 24. So I divide by the bottom and multiply by the top. 6 into 24 goes 4 times it by 2 gives me 8. So 8 of my squares have to be green. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I then have to work out 1/12 of 24. So again I divide by the bottom and multiply by the top. 24 divided by 12 equals 2. Times it by 1, still 2. So 2 of my squares are blue. 1, 2. And my last question, it's asking me to work out 2/8 of 24. So divide by the bottom, 24 divided by 8 equals 3. And then I have to multiply that by 2, gives me 6. So 6 of my squares are red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And my last question, I have to work out how many of the remaining squares are left over in white. Quick count, 6, 7, 8 of them are white. Order these fractions from smallest to biggest. Now this question is pretty straightforward because all of the bottom numbers, the denominator, are all the same. So all we need to do is look at the numerator on top. So starting with my smallest number, well, the first smallest fraction is 1/8, then 3/8, 5/8. My largest fraction in the list is 7/8. We only have to really focus on the top number, the numerator, 1, 3, 5, 7. Order these fractions from smallest to biggest. As we can see in this occasion, the denominator on the bottom is different. Some of them are tenths, some of them are fifths. Now to be able to order them, we need them all to have the same denominator. So my 2/5, I need to turn it into tenths. The same with my 4/5, I need to turn it into tenths. So, to get from 5 to 10, I just simply double it, times it by 2. So I need to do the same to the top. To get from 5 to 10, I've times it by 2. So I do the same to the top. So now we have all of our numbers in tenths. Pretty straightforward then to put them in order from smallest to biggest. So we've got 3 tenths, 4 tenths, 7 tenths, and 8 tenths. Now the key here is you have to use the numbers that were in the question when you're putting them in order from smallest to biggest. On occasion, boys and girls use the numbers that they've converted. So we must use the numbers that were in the question. So our smallest would be my 3 tenths. My next smallest would be my 2/5 because it is 4 tenths. Next in my list would be 7 tenths. And then my largest one, the biggest one, is my 4/5 because that was 8 tenths. We have 4 fractions that we need to order from smallest to biggest. 2/3, 5/6, 1/3, and 1/6. Now this is made difficult because the denominator on the bottom is not the same across all of the fractions. So we need to do some converting and find equivalent fractions. So I'm going to turn my thirds into sixths. So to get from 3 to 6, I've doubled it. So I must do the same to the top. So 2/3 is the same as 4/6. 1/3, if I turn it into sixths, again my bottom number has been doubled. 3 has been doubled to make 6, so I do the same to the top. So 1/3 is the same as 2/6. Now we're able to put them in order because we know to work with our sixths. But as we mentioned before, make sure you use the original numbers that were in the question. They're still in purple. So now we can put them in order. So my smallest number up on the list is 1/6. My next smallest was the 2/6, which is 1/3. The next smallest in the list is my 2/3 because it is the same as 4/6. And the biggest fraction listed in purple is the 5/6.